Welcome back to Digging Deeper. It has been a minute. Today we're getting out of the cab and under the hood. We're going to talk about diesel techs and why you're struggling to hire them. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
Welcome back to Digging Deeper. So today we have Aaron Mowery. We haven't had him since season 1. Not sure why. We said it was because he's in high demand and it's hard to schedule, but whatever.
That's not the truth.
Today, and I came up with this line beforehand, we are getting out of the cab and under the hood. So we're talking about diesel techs today, and specifically 5 reasons why you are struggling to hire as many diesel techs as you want to. And we'll probably throw in some bonus footage here and there. But let's go ahead and get into it. Number 1 reason you're not setting aside, well, I'm not articulating this well. You're not prioritizing a person within your recruiting department to focus solely on diesel techs. Now, I will say Aaron came up with most of this list based off of interactions with thousands of clients, something like that. Ish. All right. So, question number 1. Why is prioritizing someone to focus solely on techs important?
I'm going to spin it as a positive because you said you're not prioritizing. A recruiter isn't focused specifically on their diesel tech needs.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the most successful clients that we meet with, go over the data. They have someone specifically assigned to their diesel tech needs.
Why is that such a positive? Why is that such a positive move to make for them?
I mean, I think there's many reasons, but what is it? Our 4DX, 4 disciplines of execution. You succeed at things you track. You succeed at things that you put specific metrics behind. So I think that's part of it. Is they have someone dedicated with KPIs. You know, is their job? Are they going to keep their job or not, based off of the diesel tech need and how they execute on that plan?
I also imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, there probably is some nuances to talking to a diesel tech that you would only learn after focused experience talking to diesel techs that way separated out from other roles that you may be hiring.
That is true. One thing that I've seen, even with the most experienced clients who are successful, the men and women who are tasked at the diesel tech jobs, there's still somewhat of screening. The maintenance director or the terminal manager is going to end up at some point doing the final interview and probably the nuances of the candidate. But at a high level, they can ask a few really qualifying questions to find out if this person is a good fit or not. So again, I don't think they have to be, 20 years of understanding diesel tech.
Right.
You just need someone focused on it. I hate to use the word screener. It's more valuable than just screening.
Right.
But asking good questions and moving them through the process, quickly.
All right. So I know our clients, and I think if I'm playing devil's advocate, I assume many of them would say, I don't have the manpower to focus someone solely on techs. We have other roles that we're hiring for, and I don't have that sort of recruiting department. What would you say to someone who doesn't? What are some solutions for someone who doesn't have that sort of manpower?
I think you're right. The majority of clients we see have HR handling their mechanics, even if they do have in-house recruiting on the driver's side. So, ideally, back to what I've seen before, can you put somebody in place specifically on the tech side? Depends on how big the need is. Now, there's all kinds of opportunity to do some flex, recruiter on demand. That's something we've gotten into over the last 2 years because we've seen the value with our clients that you don't want to staff up 4 or 5. And especially the tech, it's always been a piece, but over the last 2 years, it's really swelled. Mm-hmm. And I think some folks are thinking as, freight changes and trucks start coming back on order and they get back to their typical cycles, they may not need them as much.
Right.
So short term, there is the ability to outsource some portion of that. Again, it's just the screening process too, just to get it to the terminal manager.
And I know you're not on the construction side as much, but from what I've seen, and I'm not either as much, but because my wife works on that side, I know that repair and maintenance is such a huge component of revenue for your dealership type thing and repair shop and that sort of thing. So it is worth the investment of some sort of, recruiter on demand type thing, because and the good part of it is it's so scalable with the market.
Yeah. I mean, you said dealers, but even on our private fleets,
Yeah.
they're missing revenue if their trucks can't haul their product.
Right.
And then on the for-hire fleets, that's a no-brainer. If their trucks are in service or downtime, out of service, I should say, they can't move the freight. Or I've seen it be, in the last year and a half, a huge turnover problem when a driver needs to make money and it takes his truck a week to get fixed.
All right. So basically, summary, find some way to prioritize someone following up with your diesel tech leads.
If it's just in the mix with the driver stuff and the same team is doing both, you're not going to have as much success. Our data shows that.
Okay, cool. All right. Item number 2. So another issue that we see with clients and people we work with is the rate at which they follow up. So you have someone coming in, you have, whether that's a form lead or an inbound call or whatever it is, you need to be and this kind of dovetails nicely with what the other idea of prioritizing someone to focus on it. You have to follow up quickly. And I believe there's a stat, and I don't know it off the top of my head, from like a Harvard Business Review study on lead management. What is that stat on how quickly your rate of contact declines if you don't follow up quickly?
Yeah, within 5 minutes is what they came back with. After 5 minutes, the rate of response drops from I think if you can make contact within 5 minutes, a 90% chance you're going to get them on the phone. And I think it drops to a 10% or maybe 5% after 5 minutes.
Wow.
So I try to play devil's advocate here because I'm in a lot of meetings with clients and vice presidents of recruiting and even on the maintenance side as well. That is a really difficult task, and I understand that. And we can talk through some automation to help. And then after hours, how can you handle that kind of stuff? 5 minutes is tough. The problem is a lot of the meetings I'm in, their KPI is we try to get back in touch with people, within 24 to 48 hours. Can we meet somewhere in the middle? 5 minutes may not be acceptable, but
Right.
I think 48 hours is probably not too. So anyway, something there, add some automation, have somebody specifically dedicated to it. And then the other piece is if they're getting a large number of inbound leads, forms, inquiries, then it's a tough mix on how much time can I make outbound calls to the people who have submitted a interest form.
Right.
To also be available for the phone call that's coming in for somebody who's also wanting to talk. So I understand that problem.
Okay, so you mentioned some solutions to buoy their efforts to follow up more quickly. What are some solutions that you can do to help you follow up more quickly and increase your contact rate?
Automation's one. A lot of your partners should have this kind of stuff. But one of the things that I think we're implementing right now on a campaign is in your form submissions, after they submit a form, and it's not an application, so just an inquiry, we call it a confirmation page, and the ability to add a Calendly link that says, hey, when are you available for a call? Or even asking that on your form, when are you available, with a drop down on days, times. That's a big piece.
Okay.
Scheduling time. I mean, some of this is common sense. I feel bad for saying it, but scheduling time that says, hey, from 8 to 9, I'm going to do follow up from my outbound leads from the night before. But
Right.
from 10 to 11, I'm doing, nothing but letting the phone ring and answering inbound calls.
Okay.
Now, that may be too simple, but there has
No,
to be some type of scheduling.
I mean, sometimes the simple thing needs to be said. People have 1,000 things they're focusing on until you say the simple thing. You're like, oh, yeah, makes sense. All right. Item number 3. I'm trying to look at the camera and not my monitor. So I put it as you're giving up on leads too quickly, but I think the non-negative way is provide yourself the time to make outbound attempts to leads. Just because you don't get them the first time, you shouldn't give up. So could you give us a little bit more on that?
Yeah, one of the things I've seen is a lot of clients consider a templated email as an attempt. So when they come back and say, we typically try 4 or 5 times, and we do a lot of secret shopper too, and not when we onboard a client, that's one of the things we suggest. Hey, we're going to run some secret shopper leads. We're going to analyze your pipeline and your process. Are you okay with that? So they're all on board. But one of the things we see is, hey, you can't include 2 or 3 templated emails as an outbound response. I don't know what the stat is. Emails get less than 1% return. So that's not ideal.
Not my emails.
Phone and text and a combination of those, different days, different times, different subject lines.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of different things. You should have a good partner that can help you through that process.
So what's the number? How many times should I, as a recruiter, how many outbound attempts should I make to get in contact with a lead?
Before it's moved to what we would consider a hidden work list or move it just to your automation drip marketing, it's 7 to 10 times between 7 to 10 days. So after about 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks, move on. And again, that's a snowball effect. If you're getting 20 leads a day and some of those are on attempt 1 and then you've got another batch that you're on attempt 5.
Yeah.
I understand that's a lot. So what we've seen, and the Harvard Business Study shows it, is most people make 2 to 3 attempts and move on.
Yeah.
And the people who are most successful make 6 to 8 to 10. And they tend to hire about a 30 to 40% higher rate.
That's a big
It's
difference.
a huge difference.
That is a huge difference.
But
So it's worth your time.
It's all about, time management and manpower.
And just to take a step back, I think it's important that we review the idea that these techs can be so integral to the amount of revenue you're bringing in. So if you can increase your contact rate or hire rate by 30 to 40% by making 3 additional attempts, it's totally worth your time to do that. And then another thing we were talking about earlier that I think is really important is you were saying that a lot of our clients and people that we work with, they're going to have qualifications like with like 2 years of experience, and what was the other one that many of them have?
I'm trying to think what we were talking about earlier.
It was the qualifications of a tech that most of them have in their.
Well, everybody labels it different, but you'll have master technicians,
Right.
Apprenticeship, and a lot of our clients do have some type of a career path where
Right.
they'll take a certain amount of apprentices. I don't know where you're going with the question.
Well,
but
so I think the idea of why you need to keep following up with leads, why you need to get in contact fast, is because most of these guys, if they have 2 years of experience, if they're a master technician, they're probably working right now because everybody wants technicians. And the idea that you can just be flippant with the lead, or that they can answer a phone call at any time, like they're probably working at the moment.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to keep following up to get in contact with these higher quality guys.
yeah, multiple times, and again, some automation in place, drip marketing, be creative.
Well, let's head there, because we've talked about several things, but then item number 4, putting in place automation to where there is some sort of drip marketing where it's not always just on the recruiter to manually follow up.
Yeah, we mentioned the Calendly link earlier.
Yeah.
I think that's something. Some text. I know there's tons of text platforms, and we can help too there. You
Right.
should have some vendors that can kind of help you get some opportunities. But
Yeah, so a lot of applicant tracking systems have that feature in place. There's, marketing automation platforms like HubSpot that have, they have sequences on the sales side of things that allow you to just trigger one-to-one type stuff easily.
yeah, and I think that probably covers the majority of
Right.
what they need. It doesn't have to be some, future AI that no one else is using. It's just trying to take some of the manual process out of a small workforce, of a recruiting department and or terminal managers. But you mentioned it earlier, the level 2, level 3 techs, they're working hard, and a lot of the shifts I've seen, second or third shift. So your best bet, targeting someone who is willing to work third shift is probably running your advertising campaign during third shift.
Right.
Now, the downside is if you have a recruiting department that comes in at 8 a.m. and starts making phone calls on the third shift opportunities, that guy just went to bed an hour earlier, too. So you've got to build some automation around that.
Right. Right. What is the best, if you don't have the ability, or let's just ask it more plainly, what is the solution to deal with after hours and weekend type leads?
I don't know if I have a silver bullet. I think it's trying a few different things. Let's see, what does your voicemail system look like? Do they have the ability to leave a voicemail? Who checks that voicemail? How often do they check it? Again, I feel bad for even saying that, but I can't tell you the amount of times that we've done phone audits and the mailbox has been full for like 2 months. I have no idea. No one could even leave a message. But I don't know if I have a good answer on exactly what would work. I think it would be different. Some folks probably have staffing on the weekends. Do you want to forward your calls on the weekends to a cell phone? It depends on if that recruiting department gets paid commission.
Yeah, I've heard that idea is you have a cell phone that gets passed around and you got to fill calls on the weekend and it's round robin of who does that and sort of thing.
And, the big thing for me is it's different from a driver in a sense that a lot of times you're screening, you're asking a few qualifying questions, and then the point of the phone call is, hey, what questions do you have for us? And when would be a good time to actually schedule the interview?
Right.
Typically, the maintenance director or the terminal manager is going to be involved in that interview. That's the part that seems to be the most difficult. I can't get back in touch with them, or I talked to them once, and then when we tried to schedule the interview, we never heard back from them. It seems like people aren't scheduling the interview right then.
Right. So that sets me up real nice like for this final one, or maybe it's not the final one. Item number 5 of why you're struggling to hire diesel techs is, I wrote it down as you're not taking apps over the phone, but we talked about this a little bit. It's essentially, and this all is dovetailing real nicely, if you get one of these high quality level 1, level 2, whatever, master technicians on the phone, you need to make the most of that opportunity once you got them on the phone. So you told a story about this, and I want you to retell the story about listening in to a phone call with a diesel tech.
I can't remember what I told you.
So it was basically, they had him on the phone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And go. And go.
I mean, we listen to a lot of these phone calls. And again, I don't know the other side of the story. A lot of times you may already have an interview scheduled in the next 5 minutes. So I fielded a phone call. I'm asking a few questions of this applicant or candidate, and I've got to get off this call because I have another interview. That could be absolutely possible.
Right.
But in the example we were listening to, the mechanic himself sounded very busy, and she, the recruiter, she was great. Really did a good job. Asked some good questions and said, "When would you be available for an interview?" And he's like, I'm not really sure. How long do they take? And she said, no longer than 10 or 15 minutes. So that was good. He was scared it was going to be an hour. And he said, well, could you send me some times and then I can tell you if I'm available? I don't know if he meant in an email or whatnot, but she didn't let him off the hook. She said, well, let me look at my calendar. Can I give you some times now? I thought that was awesome. Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, sure. Anyway, by the time she had gone through some of this, we're probably 7 minutes in. And I'm, again, I don't know what else is going on, but I'm thinking, could you have gone ahead and done the interview now? Or at least, half of it. But he gave her a time. They set something up. It was the following day. We did follow up with the client, and they said that, he's in the pipeline. They had a real good interview. Yeah. So that example, he did not ghost them.
Right.
We hear a lot of times where, when are you available? And then you never hear from them again. So I would have loved for her to have done the interview right then. I realize that's not always possible.
But the basic idea is, like, if available, like, if you get them on the phone and you can do the interview then, you might as well, because you don't know if you're going to get them again. If you can take a full application over the phone, which we tell a lot of our clients, if that's I know Seth says that a lot. Oop, bump the mic.
We see the show rate is extremely high when you take the app.
Yeah, take it over the phone.
I don't.
If you can.
I don't. I understand that's not always possible.
Not always possible.
I'm going to go on a pet peeve here real quick.
Peeve away.
One of the things I see a lot of our clients do not want to run specific pay for their hourly diesel mechanic jobs. I think it has to do with, it's all depending on experience and, depends on the city. One location is different than another. I get that. if you were, and we're trying to find the data to prove this, so this is just off the cuff here. If you're targeting experienced level 3 mechanics, 35 an hour, whatever, these guys have been doing it a long time, and your ads don't have anything to do with pay, we tend to see a larger group of apprenticeship or just getting into the industry calling on those ads.
Right.
Which frustrates us because the client gets mad. We need more experience, but we don't want to run pay. And it tends to show that ads without pay generate I don't want to say lower quality, but a newer mechanic.
Less experienced.
So anyway, that's my marketing pet peeve there.
All right. Well, since you kind of segued us nicely, let's give the folks at home some bonus footage. So we're talking about most everything we've talked about so far has been the idea of process.
Right.
Post lead, let's say. What about just some general quick, some helpful tips on the marketing side, as far as what channels to run, what has been successful, things to consider, anything on the marketing side. What you got?
Well, one of the things we've seen, you've got some job boards out there that are very good at localized job opportunities, and it tends to be a very big piece of, and it should be a piece of most advertising campaigns. Even Craigslist, I know that happens some, but when you have a localized job board, I don't know if I'm supposed to say Indeed, but Indeed does a really good job with that.
Indeed, you can.
Okay, that's a big piece of any diesel mechanic campaign. Our data shows when we do some wage analysis and Bureau of Labor Statistics data in a certain MSA, it'll show us the amount of diesel techs in an area. We also have our own audience of anybody who's financed tools in an area. The data says about 25% any given month are actively looking for a job. So if there's 10,000 in the metro, you'll see 2,500 went to Indeed and looked for a job in that same metro. The problem is most clients they're putting most of their eggs in the active job search channels like an Indeed or Craigslist, and not taking advantage of the 2/3 to 3/4 of the audience. Again, the master technician, the level 3 folks that are probably happy where they're at and aren't actively looking for a job. So taking advantage of your own database, other people's database, Facebook is a good example of that. But to upload an audience and target people, I know you're a mechanic and I know you live in this area, but you're not actively looking for a job.
Which kind of goes back to the idea of advertising pay. If you want to, I don't want to use the word poach, but if you want to entice some of these higher quality mechanics that have a job and aren't actively looking, you're going to have to be on passive channels, and you're probably going to have to advertise pay.
Pay's a big piece. It's not the only piece.
Not the only piece.
And I have seen, somebody will, again, auditing calls. We've heard a mechanic call in and say, I'm interested in your job, ask a few questions, and then when pay comes up, hey, I already make $3 more an hour than that right now. And I wish more recruiters would say, well, then what are you unhappy about? Because whatever he was making, he still ended up calling and looking at another opportunity. So it could be shift, it could be benefits, it could be tool allowance. I mean, there's so many things other than pay. I'm not saying pay's not important, but for those very skilled level, 3 technicians, and that's another thing, maybe this is a plug for us, but you've got to run advertising with a few different benefits, specific benefits, to see what's working.
All right. I think that's probably pretty good. Why don't you stare down that camera for the folks at home and give a quick summary, just a very quick summary of listen, if you're trying to hire diesel techs, here's how you can put what would be the phrase here? Put the ball in your court, stack the cards in your favor. Give them a quick summary of what we've covered.
Yeah, that's.
Or I can do it.
Put me on the spot. No, I'm gonna try it.
All right.
1, assign somebody specifically to the diesel tech campaign.
Correct.
That's their KPI.
Yep.
And report on it. Pay them well. Secondly, how quickly can you follow up on your inbound leads? There is a fine line between too much volume and then too slow to respond.
Okay.
You got to figure out what that is. It needs to be the data says 5 minutes, but it really needs to be in the first hour or two.
Okay.
Automation as well. Don't give up too quickly. It's got to be 7 to 10 times over 7 to 10 days. Phone calls, text. Don't rely on templated emails. Not saying an email can't go out, but it needs to be custom specific.
Right.
Are you using automation? Ask your vendors, your partners, and even your own ATS. How can you get some drip marketing, some text campaigns, schedule them for different days and times of the week? And then last piece would be, if and when you get someone on the phone, take as much of that application or the screening process or the interview right then. Do not let them off. And I realize you can't always do that, but get as much as you can right then on that first call.
And that's been Digging Deeper with Dave and Aaron Mowery, why you're struggling to hire techs. Thanks, everybody.